like to call the special meeting of the Scarborough Town Council to order and ask you to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I did want to know that this is the July 7th, Wednesday, July 7th special meeting. Could I have the roll call?
Council Alquist.
Here.
Council Holbrook. Here. Council Babine.
Present.
Council DeAndrea.
Here.
Council Wood.
Here.
Council Roy.
Present.
Council Chair Rancourt.
Here. And now we're going to move on to non-action items, and tonight we're going to be discussing in a workshop format the Charter Review Committees. At least, I don't know if these are still in draft or are they finalized yet. At least recommendations as they now stand. Tony, do you have to announce this?
No, it's just a,
Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Annalee Rosenblatt and the Charter Commission to kind of, I think, walk us through the initial information, and then we'll open it up in workshop.
Sounds good. Tonight, I distributed to you a memo that was a follow-up to the transmittal memo of the categories in which I see these recommended changes following. The grammatical or placement changes, clarifications, which mean the current practices are now reflected in language, and then really true changes. Now, after tonight's meeting, this configuration may change. I know Mr. Vaniotis is here to kind of help us with that, so he can hear what this discussion is, but it helps keep me focused, and it also then will reveal to you what our thinking was, because not every recommended wording change was ever intended to mean a substantive change at all. So I hope that that's helpful. As the council, you know, the final say is yours. You can put them in any category that you choose to put them in. So except for a few additional typos and numbering problems, which is totally my responsibility. I did all the typing. I can't say my secretary did it. So all of this is my work. So if there are typing errors, please point them out. I have no pride in my typing ability, or I noticed tonight that there may be some misnumbering issues because of some changes. My draft, I took ahead of time and marked them so I could, you don't have to go back and forth if you don't want to, about where the changes are. So the first set of changes, we made grammatical and placement changes, reordered some items. We took long paragraphs that had several thoughts in them and broke them out into smaller sections with the purpose of being the same thoughts, but sometimes the wording had to be changed to make complete sentences out of them. So that's what grammatical and placement changes mean. The clarification changes, an example would be so that you know when I point out others, now the town council elects a vice chair at the beginning of the year. The charter calls for electing a chair as you need one, and so we have put the election of the vice chair as a recommended change to the charter to make that practice in the charter instead of an extra practice. And then there are real substantive changes, the biggest one being the recall procedure. That whole section has been reorganized because we realized as we were doing the recall procedure and preparing, with Tody's help, the form of the ballot and the order in which things should be done, that now that would apply to that type of petition, but no other type of council or citizen action, such as a referendum or override of council action. So we've reorganized it so it's spelled out clearly to voters what the form of the petition has to be, how it has to be turned in, what the wording has to say on any petition, instead of leaving it up to Tody to, on an ad hoc basis or referring to state law, how those petitions should look and how that procedure should go. So while we didn't change the procedures for those procedures, those events, we've combined them all together into one big article dealing with adding to it the recall. And then the other major substantive change that we made deals with property transfers, and we'll get to that as we move along. So that's just a quick overview. We got our suggestions in many ways from the committee. We received letters and emails from a few citizens. Several citizens came and appeared before us and presented both written documentation and testimony. We heard from several town department heads and former department heads for suggested changes, in addition to the town clerk and the town manager. Mr. Vaniotis helped us with wording on some of the ones that we struggled with, and those are found in here as well. So that was the source, and the changes that we're suggesting in the school board came from 2 or 3 members of the school board who felt that a clarification would be in order. So I think that that's a fair overview, Carrie, of what we did. So with that, I'll just start at the beginning so that you can kind of make notes on how we put this together. With the first change being suggested is 102.2. I put that into what I call category 1, which is the grammatical and placement changes. We felt that that was a more clear wording. Section 202, I wasn't sure about this, and I have to say, I did this independently where it goes. This is not a consensus of the committee at all. I think it'll be close, but I can't represent that we did the placement as a committee. I had trouble deciding where this would go. I placed it into 3 on the basis that one can reside in multiple places versus maintaining their residence here. So I put it in 3. I don't know if it's just a clarification. The intent was that they should actually be a citizen and a resident of this town as opposed to a dual resident who only resides part of the year. So we don't know if we met that objective, but that was our objective in that particular change.
Do you want to take questions as we go along, or do you want to wait till the end to discuss?
What would you prefer? It's your workshop.
I think comments as we go, because we're going to forget a lot of these.
If I were in your place, I would forget too, because we've been working with this and we might forget. So I think
Right.
that would be fine. I don't mind. I used to teach school. I'm used to being interrupted at any time.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Council Wood.
just real quick, could I ask that once Annalee introduces the change, then maybe you could see if the council has any questions
Sure.
on that specific change?
Just raise your hand if you have
Okay,
one.
right,
And you
thank
want to do it section by section or article by article?
I think article
Article
by
by
article, I
So
think
that
will be
stop
fine.
at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any comments on Article 1?
then.
Well, just clarification, in this memo that we received tonight, it says 101.2? And did it mean, it meant 102.2?
Yep.
Yes.
All right,
My typing, thank you.
all right.
Any other comments on 101 point, Article 1?
Well, it's really not in Article 1, it's overarching that I have as far as a precept of the entire conversation. Don't mind.
Go ahead.
So I was kind of wondering, to what extent did the committee, how did they go into this? I mean, did they go into this saying, I really want to change town government, and these are the areas that I want to do that in? Did they go in and say, well, I'm satisfied with town government, I'm just here because I want to be an active participant? What was the motive that was behind the entire process that went into this? So that
I think each member will have to speak for themselves. I can speak for me, as I was watching a town council meeting at home one night, and Judy said, I really wish somebody who was on the former Charter Review Committee would step forward, and the next day I called and stepped forward. So that was my motive. I had no other. And I went in with no preconceived notions at all about any of this.
I just happened to volunteer to fill some position in some committee in the town and didn't really know about the Charter Review Committee. and had marked a couple other ones, and I think it was Judith Roy who said, "Oh, would you be on the Charter Review Committee?" And I said, "Sure."
Okay.
Well, there were two really
Yeah.
voted with.
I just wanted to
big
get a general
motives.
consensus of what the
Yeah.
intent was. Yep.
Same with me. I think I've been on a number of town committees, but I thought I could volunteer for this one, bring something to it. I'm not dissatisfied with town government, certainly, but I thought the process would be both informative, interesting, and productive, so I volunteered.
Okay.
Before Jack says it, I asked Jack to be on the committee too.
Darn, we blame you.
That's a problem. Basically, what I wanted to do was look at the town charter and tweak it rather than
Yeah.
radically change it. I don't see any, I'm quite happy with it the way it is.
Thanks, Jack. I can't follow all of that nice words. Anyway, a few months ago, prior to when we got started, as you remember, the city of Portland was having some big changes with their charter and what they wanted to do. So I found out, and I said, gee, that would be, maybe we should look the same way. So I believe the Charter Commission Committee is an opportunity for me to examine the town of Scarborough's governing procedures. Number one, we all need an operating procedure, and I was just curious as to how it happened. I had some thoughts as to what I wanted to make sure that maybe we talked about. One of the issues was the population of the town, a city, still call it a town, or should we call it a city? Some thoughts? Okay. Compensation for council and school boards, I'm not sure that was sufficient, and I wanted a discussion about that. The recall, I was not very excited about that. I wasn't sure we really needed to do that. Do we ever have the experience? And I didn't want that to be someone's issue to hit someone on the head. And I thought that, I think we handled it very well, thanks to Anna Lee, who was a real leader and a real guidance in our project. And also the budget and the time needed to prepare a budget with Tom Hall and Cody to get these budgets together. I wasn't sure we had enough time to get them all done in time. And lastly, we discussed a little bit about maybe we should, the Charter Commission Review Committee should meet more often than 10 years, maybe 5 years, 7 years. But we discussed that for a while, and I think we had some real good discussions. We had an agenda every night, and Lee kept us in order, a great leader and a great guide, and I found it very well done. Thank you.
No, you're fine.
I agree with everything that everybody said. I have no preconceived ideas. Been involved and president of the town a long time. It seemed like a good opportunity to go through the charter that has to be done every 10 years, so.
Actually, I have to say that I cornered Len
Yes,
and
you
his partner
want-
Ellie, and I begged one of them to please be on this because we didn't have enough people. And thank goodness one of them at least came forward.
No, the reason why I asked the question also actually comes to the end of this, and that is that I hope the citizens that are watching understand that each one of these members that served on the committee have served in several capacities in our town. I mean, if my memory is bad, but Mr. Callahan, I believe, has served on the planning board. Ms. Rosenblatt has definitely been on the school board. Mr. Higgins has been a town councilor, state representative. Mr. Kelly, sorry, I don't remember exactly, but I think planning board. And I know, but Mr. Hanson has been on the planning board, so these folks have definitely contributed in the past as well, so they have a lot of history for us. So that's why I wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. So, with that being said, anyone wish to make any comments on Article 2? I do. Annalee, I'm not sure that maintain their residence is clear enough. I think perhaps legal residence in the town would, because you can have a residence here but not be a resident of the town.
I believe our intent was legal resident.
Right,
And maybe
my
Chris
recollection
can,
is that we put it in there with the intent that we would bring it up and ask for some legal
Right.
guidance as opposed to reside in the town, which may or may
May
not
not
mean
be our legal resident here, that this is their
So,
home.
we did
Right.
spend, Chris was kind enough to come to a couple of our meetings, but this is not one issue that I recall him being asked a question.
And the reason it's in category 3, Carol, is because the word "is recalled" is added, which is a substantive change that has to go here if the recall provision is adopted. So there are a couple of categories that the word "is recalled" was put in there. So I don't know from a voting perspective how you deal with that, because if recall is not adopted, then every place else we've put recalled wouldn't apply, of course. So
Right,
that was a clerical consistency change.
right. And I was just talking about that one section, yeah.
Counselor Roy was first. Don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
Just on page 5, as that first 202 continues, it says, "If a member of the town council is recalled or shall cease to possess any of these qualifications." Did it read prior to that, "If a member of the town council shall cease to possess any of these qualifications"?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor?
Yeah, so the question I have is prior to this, that question was, so in section 202 in the first sentence, the substantive changes "shall reside" to "shall maintain." So the question I have for legal counsel is that, does that substantively change the residency requirement for someone who wishes to be a member of the town council?
Oops,
Oh.
we got a microphone shortage.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not your fault.
I can hold on to it, Tom. The answer to that is I might have to give it a bit more study. As I understand it, the intent is not to change the substance of what's in the charter currently with this change. So the term, well, there are two pieces of this. First of all, a councilor must be a registered voter of the town. So in order to be a registered voter of the town, you do have to be a resident of the town of Scarborough. The term "reside in" suggests to me that you actually have to be living in the town of Scarborough during your term as a councilor. So I think this is something to think about, whether "maintain their residence" is actually a slightly more liberal term, if you will, where somebody could maintain a residence in Scarborough, but not necessarily be living in the town of Scarborough. I'll tell you, I mean, these issues always get tricky. If you have somebody who's, lives in Scarborough but is gone for 2 months out of the year, they still live in Scarborough. So I'm not sure what the intent of the committee was in making that change. I guess the question the council and the committee have to look at is, first of all, has this been a problem in the past? And if it hasn't been, then perhaps you want to leave the language the way it is. But if there's something the committee is trying to get at, we might have to massage that language a little bit.
Counselor?
Yeah, I mean, I have a concern about that as well. I mean, maintain their residence. I mean, I have friends who maintain a residence in the town of Scarborough at Hagen's Beach, but they're gone from October until May. And a lot of our residents do in fact do that for tax purposes, as far as, they maintain their residence here, but they're actually a legal resident of Florida so that they avoid what is that, they can't take money both from
Homestead,
retirement.
homestead
Yeah.
exemption
It's not
and all that
homestead,
stuff.
it's a water, I can't think of what it is now, but anyway, you can't collect both Social Security and Main State Retirement at the same time. And so you maintain a legal residence in Florida for 6 months of the year, but you still also maintain a residence in Scarborough or Portland or whatever.
Are they
So,
a registered voter, though?
yes, they are registered voters, so.
Not sure that's legal.
I'm not
So I don't know, I just think.
But you
that-
can maintain residency and not be a registered voter.
Sure,
That's
yeah.
true.
But, I mean, you can maintain
Very
registry and be a.
significant difference, I think.
And be a registered voter. So I feel that we need to clarify that. I mean, legally, we need to clarify.
Well, if there's this much confusion, it definitely needs clarification.
Yeah.
I can just tell you that our intent was that they be a legal resident, a registered voter, they pay their taxes to the state of Maine, et cetera, okay? Their car's licensed here, they are here. and they're not 6 months and 1 day someplace else with a car license from there. So that was our intent, so maybe that helps.
I think that gives Chris certainly.
Yeah, so I mean, verbiage-wise, we need to be sure that the verbiage
It reflects
implies that, it reflects that intent.
Unless you guys disagree, I mean, you don't.
No, I don't think we're trying to reinvent anything other than clarify what was there. And if Chris says it's better left the way it is, without making it even more unclear, then we'll leave it the way it is. But it seemed like this was the chance in 10 years that we have, and if we can make a change that makes it clearer, then we should do it. If not, big issue.
Councilman Baybine, did
through-
you have more? Oh.
Through the chair, what I'd suggest is that, since I'm sure the council isn't going to make up its mind tonight necessarily about what changes will go to the voters, before the council next meets concerning this, or next meeting with the committee, I'll take a look at this and see if there's any law that helps us understand the distinction between reside and maintain their residence. I also understand the concept the committee is trying to get here, which is you want to make sure that people are bona fide residents, so to speak, of the town of Scarborough.
Council Baybine, did you have more?
Yeah, the second question was actually, continues on to page 5. So the question I have is around, I believe it's the last sentence of the top paragraph before section 203. I just want to make sure, so anything that is either not crossed out or is not in red is what is already in the charter, which, to no detriment to the committee, seems very incongruent as far as the sentence. It says in the last sentence, if a member of the town council, and I take out anything that's been
What are
added.
you reading, please, Sean?
Yep, top of the
Oh, okay.
page 5.
Yep.
If a member of the town council or shall cease to possess any of these qualifications or shall be finally convicted of a crime punishable by imprisonment for more than 6 months, the office shall immediately become vacant. I read that as being what's already in charter, is that correct?
Correct, except for the word.
Is recalled, so I left that
Or I
out.
think maybe or too.
Or
I think
doesn't-
the
Well,
should
that's why I'm
be there.
asking, because
Yes, that.
Yeah, I
when you
had
get
already
into the
asked that.
legalese of law and policy, it's all about the ands and ors, and
Yeah.
So the question I have is that, and I hate to be the first skunk in this garden, but it is something that needs to be addressed. Why is, if a member of the town council is recalled, so you're suggesting in future passage that the only person that can be recalled in the town is a member of the town council? Wouldn't we apply the same theory of recall to any elected official within the
It's in their
town?
section for the school board, it's in all the sections, so yes, we would agree.
So wouldn't this,
Because there's only those.
so this section really should be restructured to, because it addresses all elected officials?
No, it addresses.
No, this one's just
Section
council.
2 is town council, I believe section 4 is
Oh,
school
it's
board.
only town council, okay, thank you.
It is.
All right.
Article 2 is town council.
Well, the reason why I was confused is because in the prior sentences, it mentions every other position, including the sanitary district, so that's why I was like, if it mentions it in all the other previous, why
says
would
that
we
it
not
can't
be
be-
consistent?
Well, read
It
the
says
sentence.
that they can't be something else. It
It's
doesn't-
talking about incompatible
Right.
offices.
So-
That's why they're mentioned there.
That they can't serve as a trustee of the sanitary district.
So it still is about the town
Right,
council.
so the
Section 402 is about the school
Yep.
board.
So the underlying, the secondary question to this is that should this issue of recall that's here now should be separated? Be addressed by itself, because it's separate from really the tone of what this section is about.
I think when I introduced this section, I said that we added this here because clerically, it might need to be here, because recall is addressed separately. So it was added here because this is another way by which a seat becomes vacant if recall passes. So we don't know technically how that needs to appear on the ballot, other than, we don't know. But if recall passes, we think it has to be here, that's all.
The reason, not to get into a debate, this section 202 is about qualifications. This passage is about recall. And it's about the standards that says if a member of the town council is recalled or shall cease to possess any of the qualifications or shall be finally convicted of a crime, that's unrelated to qualifications. That's post-election. So I'm just suggesting whether or not that should be separated, because it's a very confusing issue, and whether or not we should be very clear, because I think that the issue needs to be very clear for the voters.
Oh, so vacancy should be.
Yes. The issue is around vacancy, it's around recall, it's around
It has nothing to do with
qualifications to be
recall.
recalled. It's very separate from qualifying to be on the town council.
But-
It's a very different issue.
Go ahead. I have a different view. I think that what they're saying is here is taking out the issue of is recalled or, and just looking at what's already in the charter, what they're saying is you now no longer have those qualifications. And those qualifications are, you've been convicted of a crime, or you of imprisonment, or you've moved out, you're no longer a resident. All of those things, they're saying, if you no longer have the qualifications, the office is considered vacant immediately.
Correct.
So,
That's our
I think
intent.
if you consider this without the is recalled or, that's what's already there. That's what it's saying, if you don't have the qualifications, you're out.
But the recall is a separate issue.
Right, and we may or may not proceed with that.
We were just trying to be, if I can speak on behalf of the committee, I think they're trying to be thorough, that the recall notion, if it's supported, I believe the committee believes it ought to be included here, and I would concur. Prior to the recall even being included in the charter, the only reason, once an individual is duly elected to the town council, they cannot be removed, so long as they continue to meet these qualifications.
Unless
Recall
they-
is the only thing that would change that.
Right, and that's
That's what I'm saying.
taken
what I'm
care
saying.
of in the
It's separate
recall
from
section.
qualification.
Maybe it's an overabundance of caution, but
Counselor Holbrook?
I was just wondering if it would help for clarity if that last sentence, rather than being part of that paragraph, was maybe a subsection under it, like 202.1, if that would help.
Good.
It could, that could be a style change.
Could I, through the chair, suggest that actually, in the existing charter, the real title of section 202 ought to be qualifications and vacancy? Because there really are two topics
There you go.
there. So that might make
That's my
sense to
point.
separate them out and have qualifications as the first paragraph and then vacancy is the second subparagraph. The other thing, if I could, through the chair, just so I think it might be helpful for everybody to understand that what the state statute that governs this whole process says is that each question must be limited to a single subject. But within that subject, you can amend multiple sections of the charter if they all pertain to that subject. So if, and recall is clearly its own subject. So what you would end up doing here is have a question, shall we adopt these provisions regarding recall? That question would then incorporate this proposed change to section 202. So you would put everything relating to recall in that question, but you might amend multiple sections of the charter to
If it passes.
effect the recall.
Yeah, I get you. Thank you for that clarification.
Very helpful.
Because they
Very
were
helpful.
very curious how it was
Right.
going to happen. It
Yeah.
seemed
You do
awful
not have to go
confusing.
through, you don't have to have a separate question for each section of the charter you're amending. But what you do have to do, what you must do is make sure that you confine each question on the ballot to a single subject. But again, that can include going through the charter and putting in the word recall every place it needs to go, to make the recall provisions.
Thank you so much, because I was thinking, even as a voter, how, it's so confusing. What would I do when I was there? So that was helpful.
Okay, any more comments so far? Do you want to continue, Annalee, with your?
So I haven't finished 2 yet.
Right, that's what I meant. You have a lot more to go on, too.
204.3 is a clerical rewrite. The scratch out. The 204.11, I skipped that one. We scratched out of the appointees
Was
board is redundant.
Yep.
So that's a number 1. 204.3 is a number 1. 204.6, I put that into category 2. Not that it changes any intent, but it refers to the number, and I'm hoping it still refers to the right number, but I think so, yes, we did not renumber 215. So we referred to the section in the charter that deals with the audit.
Well, numbers aren't following.
Correct. Oh, it is? The numbers are off? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the article numbers, like in Article 2, you've got 202.3, 202.6. and I'm looking at this copy,
You're
and
trying to find them.
I don't have them, so.
I believe
There should-
she's, if I may, under this, what's showing are just grammatical and placement changes, and then if you flip it over,
Okay.
it will show clarifications, and that 204.6 falls underneath that one.
Some are in more than one
Oh, okay.
category, Judy,
All right.
by the numbers.
Yeah, it is. I'm just gonna put that piece of paper over there, because it's driving me crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, I went through
I'm
this
sorry,
one,
yeah, okay.
and
205.2, again, because of the addition of the word "as defined" in section 204.1, I put that as a clarification. It might just be, it might not be a clarification, but I wasn't sure. It doesn't, there's no substantive change, just to let you know. 209.1, this is a rework. It's no change in intent or thought or meaning, but I put it into category 2 as a clarification of this section. By putting "after certification of the election" instead of "as or as soon as thereafter is practical," I thought that bordered on a potential substantive change, but the practice is that this is when you do it, so that's why it was added, as memorializing a current practice.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
Quick question, if you don't mind.
yes.
In the, on page 6, the last sentence, the question I have is that, so we're striking from the current charter with no replacement. It says, in the temporary absence or disability of the chair, the town council may elect a chair pro tempore from among its members who shall exercise all the powers of the chair during such temporary absence of disability. And the addition is, should a vacancy in the office occur, the town council may fill the unexpired term of the chair. I look at the intent of that particular passage by itself different, and that is that if the chair is not able to perform her duties or his duties, then the vice chair really should be automatically appointed. So I would have expected, if anything, the town council may elect a temporary, or, I'm sorry, a chair pro temp, is that the vice chair would automatically assume those responsibilities, because that is what is accustomed to our protocol.
And we
I
tried
think if
to
you look
do
at
that in
209,
209.
209.2, you'll see it's there.
We added,
Sorry, 202?
we added new language, 209.2,
209.2.
and at the first meeting after certification of election, the town council shall elect a vice chair. So we talked about the election of the vice chair. If you're
Oh,
talking.
so it's a deletion because of the addition and or
Yes.
the
Right.
inclusion in, okay, I'm sorry, yep.
Because you're not doing a temporary chair anymore,
No, it's fine.
you're having a
Yep,
vice
yep.
chair.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Counselor DeAndrea and then Counselor Wood.
Are these two
Am I
sentences,
making, no?
are these two sentences in 209.1 the same? They're both in red. The first one is the town council may fill for an unexpired term any vacancy in the office of chair that may occur. And then a little further down, it's should a vacancy in the office occur, the town council may fill the unexpired term of the chair. Is that redundant?
It is. Catch that one.
I didn't get them all.
Lynn was our real technical guy.
Is that really true? I mean, this is for just discussion among us.
Yeah.
Or does the vice chair fill that role?
Vice chair fills that
Carol?
role.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
It's hard when we all
It
know each
is.
other so well.
There's a subtle difference here, and I think we kind of got by it, and I wanted, so I'm glad you brought it up. I think you brought it up. If you didn't, I'm going to. The idea here is that in the situation that you have now, if you were temporarily, the chairperson is temporarily absent, you have a vice chair who serves in your incapacity or you're away or whatever the issue is.
Right.
However, if you were to resign from the council or be incapacitated for a long period of time, for whatever reason, The council then has the right to elect a new
A permanent chair.
And it wouldn't be, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't necessarily be the vice chair,
But it could.
but it could,
But
obviously
it could
could
be.
be.
New thought, I hadn't had that thought, to be
So-
honest with you. Counselor Wood is next, though,
That's a
Counselor
darn
Babine,
thought.
so I gotta get to you, Counselor Wood.
Oh, thank you. We do. So, we're not really waiting to the end of the article,
Obviously not.
Not really.
and that's okay.
This is a
We're-
workshop. We're-
Yes, that's
We're
fine.
definitely
fine.
workshopping.
Right, so can we go back to 205.2? The town council by order shall fix the salaries of officials appointed by the town council as defined in 204.1. And when I look at 204.1, it speaks, of course, about town manager, assessor, town attorney, board of assessment, board of appeals, and the planning board. So we're talking about a section here that talks about fixing salaries of officials. We're not talking about planning board members or zoning board of appeal members. We're talking about officials that are associated with, what does that mean there? The Board of Appeals and the planning board. And that's old language, so I'm actually kind of asking if
Yeah, we
you
didn't
looked at
talk
that.
about money too much, so I.
Well, that's
can't-
later.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. I can't answer your question.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if 204.1 should maybe be looked at a little bit. That's all.
There are provisions, if I might, further on in Articles 7 regarding the planning board. Actually, 7 does planning board and zoning board. If your point is that those are not compensated positions, you could indicate there that they are not compensated.
Well, I have notes to talk about that when it comes up, but in 205.2, it says the town council by order shall fix the salaries of officials appointed by the town council as defined in section 204.1. So shouldn't 204.1 just be limited to those officials that are appointed by the town council?
Either that or just take out as defined by section 204.1.
That's another way to do it.
That'd be easier.
And just a typo, I think, 209.2 in the fourth sentence in the paragraph, it says a vice chair.
You're down here,
This is small.
because there's a couple more coming.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a
I
custom,
like that, though.
that's a
Because the
custom
vice
chair.
chair has his own chair that way.
It's a custom chair.
God, they're not sitting with somebody else. That would be a little bit odd to explain, huh?
This is a double thing.
Counselor Babine, did you have more?
That's all I have right now, thank you.
Where's the chief? Oh.
I did, but I have no idea where we were before.
We were on the vice chair versus the pro temp chair, I
So,
think.
yeah, so I'm sorry. So I just wanted to understand more clearly. So the intent of the change is so that if, and I'll use myself as the example, when Counselor Steve Ross, who was chairman at the time, resigned from the town council, I was vice chair, I became vice chair. This suggests that the council then has to elect a new chair and can't automatically assume the vice chair assumes that role for 2 meetings. Is that correct? So even for those 2 meetings, the council would have to take an action item and elect a chair.
Should a vacancy occur? May fill, so it doesn't
So
have to.
it's not mandated, it's may.
May,
Okay,
May.
all right.
You
Yeah.
may not fill
I just
it.
want to, yep, no, I appreciate that, thanks.
The language says may, yeah.
Our intent was to memorialize what the current practice is.
Oh,
as
absolutely,
opposed to
absolutely,
pro
yeah.
tem business, because we know you didn't do that.
Okay, moving on.
And there's nothing wrong with changing it either.
Is that all you, I mean, I think
So-
asking questions as we go along to this section is not so bad, because it has so many different subjects in it. It's a pretty long article now that I
Right.
look at it.
It
Makes a
is.
lot of sense.
Madam Chair, I have a
Carol.
question on section 212.
We're not there yet.
We're not, she hasn't gone down to
I'm
there
sorry,
yet.
I thought we were going through the
I
article.
was just waiting for the clue to go ahead.
Are we going through
Yeah,
the
go
article?
ahead, Annalee.
Okay.
Moving along.
An extra too.
Is there an extra
Up here with that.
Oh, yeah, I got that one. 212 was a suggestion to include written record. Again, the discussion was, we thought that that is in fact what was done.
Can you add a comment on that?
So the question I have is that, in the age of technology, why would we need to make sure that it's written if technology and internet and everything else is available, that a written record is maintained?
I can answer that, I think.
Absolutely.
I watched this program on NPR, or NPN, MPBN, about how, because we have technology moving so fast, and we're coming in and out of all these different ways of doing it, that actually the world has gotten together and is doing a repository of all the different technologies under the Alps. But, so there'll only be one maybe VCR player, one DVD player in like 100 years from now or something. So that what they're saying is nothing is ever going to trump the written record, because the written record has lasted since Sanskrit. But technology becomes too old.
No,
So I think that's the answer.
they're in my attic, too.
They're in my
So I
attic.
think that's why, Sean, it's just pure and simple, writing lasts longer than anything.
We didn't get quite that exotic about it, but it's a good point.
That's a good point.
I think it's a valid point. It is, yeah.
I have several floppy disks that
Yeah,
are place to go. so.
We also briefly did discuss the fact that everyone isn't electronic.
Okay,
That's a very valid point.
okay.
It was pretty straightforward reasons.
That was a better point.
Okay, Annalee, proceed.
213, I put this into category 2 because of the sentence that said, prior to the enactment, I didn't know if that would be viewed as a substantive change or not. We deleted a lot of language here as well. But it was put into, I marked all of them, and I didn't mark this. We put this into a different section. So, we believe this is what you do now, and it is to reflect that, but it is different wording. It's a little more precise wording. We'll find the deletions here.
Could I just ask a question of
Gotta be-
Mr. Vandiotis? So he and I had a conversation on a related topic regarding pending actions. Is it not possible for council to retroactively have an ordinance take effect if it wished?
Well, as you know, Mr. Manager, there's not a very simple answer to that question, but the short answer is yes, under the appropriate circumstances, and the limiting factor really appears to be the time at which the public or people likely to be affected by the ordinance first had notice that it was proposed. All the cases that have been decided in Maine about this question of whether you can apply an ordinance to a pending proceeding, in each of the cases, there has at least been some notice, whether it's something on the town's website or some sort of notification in the newspaper that an ordinance was being considered. So the short answer is yes, under Maine law, you can create ordinances which reach back and affect matters that are already pending if you use the proper language in the ordinance.
I'm wondering, just to preserve that option, it may well be that a future council wishes to do that in the appropriate circumstances. Could we add some language such as unless otherwise noted in the ordinance? The ordinance shall take effect, so on and so forth.
Wouldn't that want to be under 213.1?
Yeah, let me go
It
a
may.
step forward, because the deletion, we separated it into, we didn't take it out, we moved it to 213.1 by separating out the normal course of ordinances, and then we separated out emergency ordinances. So to be clear, what's scratched out has not gone away, it's just been put in a new place. And it wasn't put in red because it wasn't really new language, it's just in a new place with a new title, which is in red.
I think the point I'm raising wasn't a point talked about by the committee.
No, it
It
wasn't.
came to my
I don't
mind
remember that, yeah.
just in the last couple of days. I just don't want to limit the council's ability to do that if they wished in the future and circumstances were appropriate.
So
Well,
Tom,
I think if you look at the language
I
for
remember
emergency ordinances in what is proposed to be 213.1, it does indicate that the council can pass emergency ordinance to take effect at the time indicated therein.
Okay.
So the council can certainly determine when it passes an emergency ordinance at what time it will take effect. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think somewhere else in the charter, it speaks to when non-emergency ordinances take effect.
Yeah, it says
Yeah,
that-
it's 12 a.m. on the day following enactment, or at a later date specified therein.
I know, and I was just thinking about a prior date, if you wish to do that.
So probably what you would do is, instead of saying at a later date specified therein, you would say, or at such other date as the council.
Great,
is
that would
specified
satisfy
therein.
my point, I think.
Counselor Babine had a question, I believe, or comment.
So, this is both a question, comment, and request for advisement from everyone. This is a fairly substantive change if you think about the powers of government and the powers of a town council being able to react to both litigation, react to what is necessary for us to facilitate town government. Because what this says is that, if I'm reading it correctly, is that we absolutely must have one public hearing prior to any enactment of any type of ordinance.
You have that now.
But this says, prior to the enactment of the ordinance, it shall held at least one public hearing. What it says before is that, I lost train of thought, sorry.
If you had to read 213.1, that solves the
Yeah, that's what
problem.
if I'm reading, I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, and
We
that,
made
that's
no
where I want the conversation to,
We made no substantive changes, Sean.
Sean, I think I know what
the
you're,
intent of some of the words, though, I think is substantive.
I think I hear what you're saying, and that is that the way that it reads before the red was put in, before the changes were made, was that it just tells that before a public hearing, you have to have 7 days advance notice. By adding that language in red, now it mandates that there should be at least one public hearing held. Is that what you're trying to say?
Substantively, it's no different, though.
Yeah, but it says
shall, yes.
at least one public hearing in the old language.
Shall is different than.
It reads the same. It basically reads the same as it did before, but we've had an issue recently relative
There
to
isn't.
ordinance enactment, where folks have come before the ordinance committee to request a change in ordinance, wanting
Prior to the enactment.
a stop to be placed upon the action that the ordinance speaks to prior to the debate of the ordinance and prior to bringing the ordinance before the council and before public hearing at a council level. So
there's
I
the-
think
there's
this is
the
really
change.
important, that it
Okay.
substantively stays pretty much
Okay.
the same. And it protects the, the committees that are working on ordinances, that, you've got to, you've got to propose an ordinance, but it has to come before a public hearing before any action by the total council is taken. And I think that's very, very important, because, a lot of people will come and they want something changed by ordinance yesterday,
Yeah, of course.
and it's not going to happen.
Counselor Babine and then Counselor.
Yeah,
Bieber.
and I'm sorry, because it was a quick review. What it is what's being deleted. It's not what's being added or reworded. What's being deleted is that the town council may, by vote of 5 of its member, pass emergency ordinances to take effect at the time indicated therein. If you look at the provisions that changes the emergency ordinances, that does not, that substantially changes because that's being deleted. You're not providing any provisions. I didn't see it in there.
We put it back in.
It's back there, it's the same thing.
No wording was changed, just
I
the
see
title.
2 words, however, in this word same.
That's the only two.
13.1 includes the emergency ordinance.
It should be red. I guess that would be easier for you.
Tom and I talked about this. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
make it red because we didn't change
And I
the
apologize.
actual wording of the content. We moved it, and the only thing we changed was the title, plus the word however and same. That was the only change.
So section 213.1 is really completely new, which is duplicative of what is below, or what is previously in 213?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Right.
It's just two different thoughts. It's a regular process, it's an emergency process. We
Okay.
separated it out, that's all.
All right. No,
Counselor
I appreciate
Deanne.
Well, I
Counselor
was just
Deanne.
going to try to clarify for
Okay, good.
Counselor Babine, the first thing that you had brought up about substantive change for the prior enactment of any ordinance. It's actually crossed out a little further down. I think it's just brought back up to the top.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anna Lee?
I think the Tom wanted is a substantive change, which you'll have to decide.
Right.
If you in fact want to include that. That would be a substantive
And
change.
I've penciled that in.
Which one's that?
That was on page 7, about halfway down where it says the passage of such is crossed out and changed to said in red. Ordinance shall be effective at 12 a.m. on the day following enactment or at any other date specified therein.
Or
That
su-
was
Such other
Chris's.
dates specified.
Or such other, at such other date,
Could be before, could be after.
And that's a
Right. I might
decision the
suggest we
council has
wordsmith
to make.
that later.
specified there.
Okay.
That is Chris's suggestion.
Yep.
Well, remember, we're not adopting anything here tonight,
No,
we're
no,
just
yeah.
discussing.
Just brainstorming.
You know, my first
Right.
charter review.
So let's go on, please.
It's not that easy. I mean, we
It
spent
isn't.
weeks on this, and it
Right.
gets
And
really
we
confusing.
also realize that it's now 10 minutes of 8, so we want to get moving, so,
I have the goal of in to get 8:30. I'm not doing
correct.
well, am I?
Sounds good, Annalee. Let's move on now.
All right,
Somebody's gonna do the work,
215.2, the typo there is it's 215.2 is in there twice, it only needs to be there once. This is a clarification, it's a reordering of the sentence, it's not a substantive change in our view.
Thank you.
216, and Mr. Vaniotis has to help us with this. There were certain sections that we asked him that looked like implementing language if we really needed them anymore. This was one of the sections I believe we were told we really didn't need anymore. I put it under the classification of substantive change because we were taking it out, but it doesn't seem to mean anything anymore, so that's our thinking. We're not trying to change anything, we just think it's old news. All right, 2 is done. Is there any other questions on 2? Okay.
Okay.
Article 3 deals with town manager. It's a shorter section. The first change is just changing his to the. That's probably that classification of one, or making it gender neutral. 303.2, the part that is lined out has not been deleted. It has been moved to section 1003.1.
Okay?
Okay. 303.3 is just the annual budget. We felt was worded better. And 2 is new language. It's consistent with what he already does, but it's not in the charter. So it's not a change in practice, but it's certainly a change in wording. And it was deleted, as, you pointed out, it was deleted from 303.5. I made a note on that, too.
Okay?
I've already talked to 303.5. It's an attempt to put more like things together with like things. 303.7 was added because since this was written, you have a town purchasing agent who acts as so he doesn't act as the purchasing agent any longer. That was the reason for that change. I don't know, I put it as a 1, but it is a substantive change too, so I don't know where that goes. Chris will have to help us with that.
This has a question around that. Structurally, that should that say oversee the purchasing agent for all departments of the town, except the school department? So that the word "the" I think is missing. The other question I have is that based on the new relationship and some of the consolidation of services, should we suggest maybe even eliminating the except the school department and hope that maybe we provide those services in the future and recommend that deletion later?
We talked about that as a possibility, but we didn't quite have enough information to recommend that. You folks know better what the plan is with regard to that.
Council Roy?
Yeah, and that was going to be my point, that I don't think we need to say, I think it's something we need to pursue.
I think that's
Except
something
the
that-
school department. I think, the purpose of a purchasing agent is to do purchasing for the entire
Right.
community, whether it be school or municipal, to get the best bang for our buck.
So
And,
that may fall into a
yeah, it may be
substantive
something that we,
change.
substantively,
And
that I think we need
that's
to
what we're
really,
both
really
pursuing.
need to look
If
at.
in the final recommendation, oversee the purchasing agent, and then
Very nice.
possibly delete,
Yeah.
except the school department,
Yeah.
I think would be really beneficial.
I hear you.
I
Also,
just,
Andrea?
two things. Well, on that one, the 303.7, I guess I don't see it as needing to be there at all. I mean, that's just sort of a given that the town manager oversees all the department, all his staff, anyway. And then the only other was 303.3. I just wanted to back up for a minute. That's just a horribly bad run-on sentence that
Yes,
needs some doctoring.
I think I mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Is that in
yes,
your-
it needs some
that was in your
work. but
email?
We don't need to wordsmith tonight. I think the general gist of it we understand. Anything else on Article 3?
Article 3, yeah, just to keep with the same convention you have for town council and Board of Ed, Section 301, the title, I might suggest you just put qualifications and leave town manager out.
Oh, to make formatting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything on a dress code in here.
Say that again? Dress code?
Dress code?
Dress code?
We didn't discuss
Yeah.
that.
Well, whether
Yes,
you
he's
wear
not
long-
allowed to wear one.
Long pants or shorts, I don't know. Okay, let's go on to Article 4.
305, again, that was a number 1. We just put the order of the sentence different. We moved the beginning of the sentence to the middle of the paragraph, just.
Article 4.
Department of Education, the overall goal of this was to make the language mirror the language for the council, to say, to be in the same order. So, whether that's a substantive change, well, that Chris is going to have to tell us. I put it under as a substantive change because it is change in the wording, but it does mirror what was for the town council. The transitional provision, I put that as a substantive change because, again, the transition happened a long time ago. We were advised this wasn't needed, so we're recommending that it go. I don't know if that's clerical or substantive, but someone will tell us about that.
Mr. Van
Can I,
Alen?
through the chair, I think if I can just step back for a minute, I think it may be helpful for the council again to think about how these questions may be presented to the voters. And the notion is one that seems to be very popular with every TV ad you watch nowadays, which is bundling. I mean, a lot of these questions can be bundled together by topic, basically. So, for example, as I look at everything that you were doing in Article 2 concerning the town council, I think legally you could put on one question that says, shall the following changes to the charter be made concerning the procedures and operation of the town council? The only one of those that I'm a little leery about is the change to a vice chair incorporated in the charter. Somebody might say perhaps that should be a separate question because it is a real change, not to the way you've been doing things, but to the way the charter currently reads. So while it's important for the council to sort of think about, is this a substantive change or just a clarification? Those aren't the topics you're necessarily going to present to the voters. You will present to the voters, shall we make changes to this section concerning how the council operates? Shall we make changes to this section concerning how the school board operates? And then there may be another category, which will be the purely grammatical, clerical changes, which, because they cover so many sections of the charter, you could have a single question that says, so shall the following changes which correct typographical errors and punctuation and so forth be made?
That's how it was done last
Right,
time, and the
right.
report that I'm going to finalize would put it together that way. I was just hoping for, like we're getting tonight, some guidance for those that are a little tricky for me to determine where they fall, whether like that vice chair thing.
Right. That one, I think, is
It's a
sort of
trickier
on the
question for
cusp,
me.
because it is something where the voters might say, gee, we don't mind making all these minor wording changes concerning how the council operates, but we think that we feel one way or another about creating this position of vice chair, which right now doesn't exist in the charter. It would be a new charter position, even though the council, under the power it has, under its rules, has appointed a vice chair over the years.
It is relatively new, yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So would 402 then be a substantive change in your quick opinion, because it does change the wording, but I'm not sure that it really changes what happens in reality.
And I think that's the test. It's a substantive change if it actually makes a change in how the government operates.
Yeah.
If we're simply changing the order of the words to make them clearer grammatically, that's not a substantive change.
And the same question would apply really to section 404. It wasn't viewed to be a substantive change, but a clarification requested by the school board in terms of what happens.
Yeah.
So we just offer, it came at the recommendation of the school board, and we did what they requested.
Okay. Any comments?
405 is just a reordering of the sentence. No substantive change.
Okay, anything on Article 4? Article 5.
501 is putting a definitive date in for the fiscal year, replacing it with from time to time. Again, I had problems with, is that a substantive change? Time to time seems to let you do it any way you want from time to time and year to year. This sets the date to be what it is. So, you know, I didn't know where, I put it in the middle ground as the second category to reflect the current fiscal year.
If I can, through the chair. I mean,
Yes.
that I think is a substantive change, because right now the charter allows the town council to change the fiscal year by order of the council. If this proposed change is made, the council could no longer do that. There would have to be a charter change in order to change the fiscal year.
Is that a good thing, Chris, to do that? I mean, I look at how the federal government changes its fiscal year all the time for many agencies. October 1st to September 30th, July 1st to June 30th. I mean, is that binding us up to not be able to have that flexibility?
Well, I think that when this charter was first enacted in Scarborough, there was a great deal of variation around the state. There were towns that were on a calendar fiscal year and towns that were on a more traditional July 1st to June 30 fiscal year. I think the requirements of state law and meeting the taxation statutes and all the rest have pretty much forced municipalities at this point into being on a fiscal year, with the possible exception perhaps of some very small communities. I would look to Tom, I guess, for sort of more sense of that, but I think the need to have the flexibility to change the fiscal year is perhaps not as great as it was when this charter was first enacted back in
Correct.
the 70s.
I think you've summed it up well. All the towns that have transitioned, I'm not aware of any that have gone to the calendar year. It's all from
No, they've all
calendar to
gone to-
fiscal.
Yeah.
The only change that I might contemplate, but I think I don't exceed in the next 10 years perhaps, is maybe going to a biennial budget or something like that. Other forms of government, levels of government do a multiple-year budget as opposed to a single year. I'm not advocating that, but this would limit us in that respect.
And it certainly wouldn't be in opposition to what has been the practice. Numbers of years I've been involved with the council, we've been on
The only question, councilors, is if, right now, the charter does allow the town council, which is the
Set it.
legislative body, to make that decision as to whether the fiscal year should be changed from time to time. If the charter is amended this way, the only way you could change the fiscal year would be to amend the charter again. So that's really a policy decision as to whether to leave that power, if you will, in the hands of the town council, or to put it directly into the hands of the voters, so that you would have to go through the process of amending the charter to change the fiscal year.
Well, there was no underlying intent to tie your hands by any means thing. We want to make sure they can't do it. It was simply, let's embody what they do, so.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
But having, at Finance Committee meeting yesterday, having
Yeah.
reviewed the financials for the year, I mean, we're tied to, looking at, how we get the revenue stream from this, the state, which is
Yeah.
trickle. But, it's what we have to deal with, and if we changed anything else at this point in time, it would disrupt our accounting process, I think.
Council Babon and then Council Wood.
Just a clarification, could you ever have a conflict where the school's fiscal year is different than the town's? You can't,
I
can
don't
you?
think you could in Scarborough, in the sense that the school department is a
town
department of the town of Scarborough. But you could certainly.
I think
you
that
could
so
certainly have
long as the
practical
intent is never to
difficulties in
make
terms
that
of the
happen,
schools
then that's,
meeting, you know,
okay.
the state
Yep.
budgeting.
All right.
requirements.
But isn't it true that if something like that should happen, or the state changes their fiscal
Well,
year,
yeah.
the charter, the council could amend this charter, and I mean, they would have notice, it's not like next month, change your fiscal year, you'd probably have a year or two notice.
The council can't, but it could propose a change to the voters.
Yeah, to
Oh,
the
okay.
voters, yeah.
Yeah, short of 10 years.
Yeah,
They could do it anytime if they needed.
That's right.
They probably would have sufficient notice to do that.
But that creates a conflict right there, because if the state says, all school municipalities must have fiscal year ends that start in July or August or whatever, which contradicts our own charter, we then have to go to the voters and say, voters, we need to change our charter to then comply with the state reg, which, what if the voters say no?
Council Wood. Council Wood was next.
I seem to recall a month or so ago when we were going through the budget, the school portion in particular, that the fiscal year, as it's defined today, somewhat handicapping to us.
Yeah.
So I'm not suggesting we go down there for a discussion, substantive discussion, but I think that it might be best to leave it in the hands of the town council from time to time to consider changing the fiscal year, depending on what
Agree.
unimaginable economic event might be in front of us.
This
So,
change could have had unintended consequences
Right,
we hadn't
right.
even thought about.
Right.
Yeah, good point.
That's well put.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I-
Counselor.
I agree with Council Wood. I'm not sure we want to touch this. I think things could change that we have no control over, and it seems to me like it's unnecessary to mess with it.
Okay. Wanna
Certainly,
move-
we're gonna do what makes the best sense
Right.
Yeah,
for us.
I wouldn't touch it.
Annalee, you want to continue?
Moving on to number 502, that was, the first change is just an ordering of the sentence. That would fall into the category of clerical. Number 2 may be viewed as a technical substantive change, because we've changed it from on blank forms to in a format. So it's a lot more specific than your current charter read. So I don't know in what category that comes, but the intent was to be more professional looking, I guess, in the wording.
But he might designate a blank form, too. So
I was asked what a blank form is, and I
He'd
couldn't.
love us to sign a blank form.
Yeah, is that a blank piece of paper?
It's one of
or a
those
form
with
not filled
invisible
in?
writing, right?
Sign here.
So, again,
Jeez.
just,
Yeah, we get it.
yes, that's easy. And then we go down to 502.1.2. We made this change because we believe it reflects what your current practices are, even though it does reflect a substantive change in the wording. So I don't know what category that falls into, but under your explanation, it probably still falls under what I put category 2, just a reflection of practices. The next is, let me make sure, 502.1.7. Again, this is talking about, we're trying to make this stuff sequential, and we don't think what happens in this paragraph begins until after the adoption of the budget, so the wording was put in. I put that in category 2, because it is a substantive change, but not a change in your practice and how you do business.
I do want to point out, Annalee, if I could, the section 502.16 and 17 actually are moved. So if you turn the page to 14, they were previously sections 506 and 507. They've been reordered, so don't be afraid by seeing the language
Yeah.
stricken.
At
It's just,
506, I had it marked, go to 502,
So-
so I just, yeah.
Gotcha.
it seemed to flow
Gotcha.
better contained in that same thought as opposed to being standalone sections as it was.
Okay.
So then what we did was created a new section number called Section 503, and we entitled Town Council Adoption of the Budget, even though the substance of the language hasn't changed except for the addition of, or as otherwise provided by state law, was added. And so as you move down, the numbering was changed, and the next one, 504 is now 505, 506, and 507 were moved, as we pointed out, to 502. So I'm hoping these numbers work sequentially. 506 was both a numbers change, and I put this into substantive change because the change of rules of order to policy, because we think that's what you have is policy, not rules of order. So again, I don't know how that would be found by Chris to be substantive or not. And we added the word across town departments because that reflects your practice. Which concludes number 6.
Okay, any other
Get
comments?
to the hard ones. So.
Okay, Article 7,
Article,
looks like you have, Article 6, you have no changes, it looks like.
no, tax administration.
And
there was no
Article 7?
changes. Article 7, these are some substantive changes. The planning board language has no designation as to how many people will be on the planning board. So we added that to reflect the presentation made by the department head relative to things he thought would make this more viable and to reflect practice. The same would be said of 703 and 704, which is a totally new concept. So these are, I believe, all substantive changes, although 702 and 703 reflect your current practice.
Thank you. Counselor Babine.
2 questions. One is, am I correct in assuming this is somewhat like the CPIC
Yes.
committee? So that would become a permanent committee of the town to ensure that the comprehensive plan is enacted and meets its standards?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Bacon made a presentation that he thought the work that committee did was
I like
really
that.
valuable.
Yep.
And to have it go on an ongoing basis in the charter would be good.
That's not new. I mean, we've had a long-range planning committee prior to CPIC.
But CPIC is due to sunset. It is specific
Right.
to implement the current plan. This intent was really to preserve and make a charter requirements to keep us honest, frankly, to make
Yep.
sure we don't fall back into not doing this until it's too late.
So I guess the second comment is this, as provided, in the first sentence, as provided in the town administrative code. So I guess I was just wondering why this committee would be a membership of 7, but all the other committees are memberships of 5 with 2 alternates? Why the structure would be different?
No reason. It was suggested to us by your department head, and we took his advice.
We did wrestle over residents and property owners.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and I can,
Well, that's what I
I
was
think
just
I think I kind of interpolated that. I just think that it's hard getting volunteers sometimes, and if we can make it easier for a committee to function, I just think that if you have 5 regular members with 2 alternates, that might be something to consider, so.
Okay,
That's all.
Counselor Wood.
Okay, thank you. 701, I think there's a typo at the, near the end, it says duties the be.
The comes out.
Duties,
Oh,
take
the
out the,
comes out,
yeah.
duties be as are.
provided. Yeah, Lynn just
Duties
pointed
as
that
are
out to me.
provided by the.
So the and be, both coming out.
That's what
Okay.
he did. I tried to.
And long-range planning committee, I think that's a good idea, and like Judy alluded to earlier, that this town has had a long-range planning committee on and off for some time, and it seems like it's quite appropriate that, I would imagine it'd still be a comprehensive plan committee enacted to create a comprehensive plan, and the long-range planning committee would be the logical committee that would see its implementation.
Right.
among other
This isn't to
things.
replace that.
Right, we understand
No, I
that,
understand
but
that, yeah, okay.
The sun says it's gone.
And of course, it would be for another time, and another day to discuss how this committee might look like,
Right.
and what its composition might be.
Right.
Okay.
Counselor DeAndrea.
I just want to
Oops,
add
sorry.
here, real quick, I thought that, when I was first elected to the council, I thought that I might find a good opportunity to suggest that this town council compensate in a small way its planning board members and zoning board of appeal members. Of course, the economic reality is such that it's been hard for me to put together a strong argument for that piece of it, but when and if we're able to get there, I would imagine that would be able to amend some rule or order in town that could, that we wouldn't have to wait 10 years possibly. I mean, having served on the planning board for 9 years and the ZBA, watching their hard work, I mean, those are two groups that do incredibly valuable work in this town, and I think that there will be a day, hopefully soon rather than later, that the council will be able to throw them a small stipends, small way of saying thank you. So, thanks.
Council DeAndrea. I just wanted to sort of echo everyone's feelings about the long-range planning committee. I think it's a good idea as well, but I do also have some concerns about residents who are property owners.
That was probably the most difficult discussion we had on this particular section, so.
Thank you. Councilor Roy?
Yeah, just, in support of the Long Range Planning Committee, I mean, in the 9 years that I served on the council prior, we had a Long Range Planning Committee, but there was no formalized mechanism for seeing to it who gets, who got onto that committee, and so this at least puts it in a proper perspective so that it's done through the Appointments Committee, and that there's no question or doubt about, what their purpose and role is. And certainly, I would concur with Councilor Wood about stipends. As I looked at the Maine Municipal Association's financial things for all the communities in the state of Maine, most other communities throughout the state of Maine provide some kind of a stipend for their planning board and their ZBAs. And Scarborough does not, and has not. And so I think in the future, it's something we need to look to once the financial world straightens around a little bit. But they
Does that require them to be elected rather than appointed?
not necessarily, no.
I think we're going to do that. We go back to the original discussion we had with Councilor Wood about compensation for.
Yeah, I have the data from Maine Municipal, and it was done just a couple years ago with, salaries of the various job functions in municipalities, so.
Something that says that
Something to look
that
at.
the council may do it. It doesn't say you have to.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Going back, if I could, to Council DeAndrea's comment too, the way this is written now on the Long Range Planning Committee, you would have to be a resident taxpayer. And there was some discussion about allowing people who own property but didn't live in Scarborough to be on this. And obviously, it's not included now, but we did discuss it.
But this would preclude somebody like me who's been living in Scarborough for like 10 years now, and I don't own property here. I rent.
Anthony and I have determined that we probably both would
Exclude us.
exclude us too, I think.
I mean, I'm not on the deed to our house, so I'm not a property owner here, just Eric is. So, I mean, we went back and forth on that discussion, and we have a large landowner with Scarborough Downs who doesn't live in town, so what about that person? And I mean, those things were discussed, and the majority settled on this. I don't think we were married to one idea or the other. We settled on this. Even though there are those different permutations that the council maybe knows really better, has more information.
Yeah, I don't see the difference between this particular committee and/or board than the other ones, and so I don't know why the requirements would be, or qualifications would be different.
I'm not sure we could answer that question either now. I couldn't, maybe
Well,
somebody else could.
I leaned over and I said, why did we word it this way, Lynn, do you remember? And he says, I don't know, it precludes me from being on it. And so I said, gee, me too. And I mean, so I think that, there was maybe a persuasive person that particular day that was more eloquent than somebody else, and we went with that, so.
So it's certainly, it's something we'll be discussing, I'm sure,
Yeah.
as we go
I mean,
along.
it has significant meaning, the way it's written, so you do have, and it does eliminate a group of people.
I want to get to that.
I'm not sure we intended it to be that way. The honest opinion, I think the discussion centered around, it was originally written to allow people from outside of the town who owned property to serve on this long-range planning committee with the idea that it was going to have zoning implications for large taxpayers, potentially for large landowners or, I don't know, use Scarborough Downs, Maine Medical Center, whatever.
I think the original wording was residents or property owners, the word or.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
That might help with that, because I think I do remember this conversation.
Yeah, you were there.
It had to do with, say, for instance, the gentleman that owns Smiling Hill Farm has a large parcel in Scarborough, but his home, because he sits on the corners.
Yeah.
He's not a resident. He owns a substantial property here and has maybe a substantial interest of, long range, what are we gonna do? But maybe perhaps, the house isn't situated on this side, so.
And
Well, I
I would
think
have
that's
no
how it-
objection to the or.
I think that's how it
There's no
ended up
hard
with
and
and
fast.
Change it to
or whatever instead. I think we lost focus and decided that we wanted to keep it residents only.
Very provincial we got there.
Right, and then suddenly, when it was all said and done, I looked at the final version and said, well, that eliminates renters, or people who, live
in
with their
another-
mother or
live
something,
with- Live within another town or something, but own lots of property. So that's something for you, I think you guys to tackle with. We went back and forth on it. There's no hard recommendation for us.
I think that's clear, our concerns. Let's move on to Article 8, because I want to get to, very quick, we're at 8:25 now.
I just wanted to say that compensation, in general, came up in the conversation, and it was felt by a majority of the committee that that was not even up for discussion in this economic environment. And some of the.
Well, that's up to us to decide whether it's up for discussion.
As far as our role.
Thank you.
And many of the things that are in these changes are sort of middle ground or compromises because of either different opinions on the committee or trying to balance consistency, balance power and no power, those sorts of issues. So we know it's not perfect world that we have presented to you.
Gee, I'm disappointed
Really?
in that.
And could I, through the chair, and I'm not trying to prolong the discussion, but very quickly on that point, the council has the power by ordinance to determine if it wants to compensate in some fashion members of the planning board and the board of appeals. They don't need specific authorization charter to do that. And as you look at these proposed changes in Article 7, understand that if you incorporate these in the charter, you are imposing some limitations on the council which don't currently exist. Right now, the planning board and the board of appeals consist of 5 plus 2 because the council enacted ordinances defining what the membership is. Again, it's a little bit like the fiscal year. If you specify in the charter it's 5 plus 2, that can't be changed in the future except by amending the charter. So that's just sort of a generic theme to keep in mind as you look through all of these. Is this something we should deal with in the charter? And by doing so, you're limiting council's authority in some fashion. Or is it something we should leave to the council? That, of course, is a tough question for the council because you're talking about your own powers and abilities, but that's really in many respects what a charter is about. It's about defining the roles and responsibilities of various pieces of town government.
Thank you, that's a really good point.
Yeah, but I think too, you have to think about, the charter, if you have a council manager form of government, do you strip the council of, their abilities to make some of these decisions? Does the council any longer serve a purpose if you tie your hands too tightly with the charter,
Well, again, that's the more philosophical question, I guess,
Yeah.
for the council,
I know.
is to think of amending a charter. But I always like to suggest that, a charter is, in some respects, forever, in the sense that once you've amended the charter, the process for amending it again is doable, but it's not quite the same as the council enacting an ordinance.
Counselor Baybody.
So the question I have, before getting into the real substantive part of this, which is coming up shortly in section 904, is that with the modifications and maybe some consensuses that we hear on our side, what happens next as far as recommendations for changes, modifications to these? Because I see a lot of work that has been done by this committee being presented to us. It's their majority opinion, but we may have some difference of opinion. Are we going to have our own workshop and our own committee that then makes modifications? Are we just simply submitting it to the voters as presented? What happens?
I believe that any of those are possible. We could accept this report. I'm not even sure that this is their final version, though.
Okay.
We think, obviously, there are some errors that they're,
Yeah, and
so there might be a cleaned up version of this.
Adjustments. I don't want to call them errors, they're adjustments, yeah.
Correct. Even just typos, for
Right,
example. We could accept this and take no action on it. We can have a workshop and decide what parts
Okay.
we wish to proceed with. We can decide whether or not we're going to send any or all of it to the voters. So we have a lot of different steps to go through that we can go through before anything comes of this.
You certainly
Give
do,
some
but I would,
limitation.
Time limited.
Correct.
Oh, huge.
I would caution you, if you have any interest in getting this on the November ballot, though I don't believe an ordinance is required for the council to take action to put the matters before, on the ballot, I would suggest you follow a similar process in terms of holding public hearing. All of that takes time, and you only meet twice in July and August. So all of this would have to be wrapped up by your first meeting in September to get it on the November ballot.
That's right, and if I can, through the chair, there are some state law requirements for what you have to do. So before you order charter amendments put on the ballot, you have to hold a public hearing.
Right.
And notice of that public hearing. So it's similar to an ordinance in the sense that under the statute, you have to have 7 days published notice before the public hearing. At the public hearing, you could, on the same night, order the questions put on the ballot. And Tody needs that by, is it the 17th of September, Tody, to meet the 45 days, or the 16th?
Actually, in order to have the ballots printed, I'd need it by the first meeting in September.
Okay.
To have the ballots ready and available 45 days prior, yes.
Which seems like a really hurried,
So what happens
Calendar.
if we don't hurry? I mean, what happens if we take our time and this goes another year, another 6 months to the next major election? Is there any penalty, or is there any, I mean, everybody says there's a sense of urgency. I'm trying to figure out why that is. It's like, it seems to me like we have a lot of questions, and they have certainly some changes they want to go back and make, and I hear that we need to get it done quickly. So I'm kind of wondering why can't we just take our time and work through this?
You certainly can. Our
Yeah.
intent, I think the committee's intent was to wrap up its work and to put the council in a position to put it out in November if you wished. And I'm just cautioning you, if you wish to do that, you need to stay on top of this. I'm not aware of any legal requirement to do so.
That's correct. I mean, at this point, it's entirely discretionary with the council what to put on, if anything, and when. This committee, and they've obviously worked very hard at this, but under the charter, they make recommendations. They're an advisory committee. They are not like a charter commission, which is a whole different animal elected by the voters, and there, the council does have to respond within a specific period of time. But here, the next step would be for the council to decide on its own initiative, basically,
Do we need
what
to
it would
move?
like to put on the ballot and when. And once you decide to put something in the ballot, you have the option of the next regular election or a special election.
correct. And so, as I was going to say, we could do a special election if we so chose. We could wait, we could do it again in June when there is a regular primary election, or we could do it the following, there isn't.
There may not be, it depends. It would be a referendum in June. The primaries are even-numbered years.
Okay, so, but there's a possibility of a June election or a further November election.
We certainly labored under the understanding that you could reject the entire thing and say, thank you very much, we don't like any of this. I mean, we do understand that, so that's okay.
Madam Chair, the reason why I brought it up is, one, is that you've mentioned the time, and I did want to at least be respectful to the committee members for their work, because I think that based on at least what I'm hearing as far as some of these changes, that there needs to be a steward on our side that looks at some of these changes that we're talking about, because it may be different than what the committee originally looked at. And to ask them to make the changes for us may contradict their own majority opinion. And I was just wondering, in the essence of time, whether or not we need to, the chair should probably think about going forward, whether we need to have a special committee for this on the council side, or, something so that we know where we're going with this in the long term, because there's, at least up to this point, a lot of this I think I'm agreeable to, as far, because a lot of it's grammatical, it's sentence structure, it's not hugely substantive, and should probably go to the voters, but then there's some substantive changes coming forward that's different, so.
Well, with all due
I just wanna make sure.
respect, I think, and we maybe need an opinion, that with this presentation, except for putting a formal report together, our work is done.
That's what I'm, yeah.
Okay, we don't
I
take
agree.
it back and rework it again. I mean, the typos in that doesn't have to be done by a committee, so.
Okay.
I hear
I
you.
don't understand the
good.
process. You tell us what you want, and we go back and rework it. You rework it, is my understanding of how
Yeah,
this works.
we just got to decide on what
Absolutely.
level and if there is an urgency here and how much time and energy we want to put in it, with the summertime coming up.
I agree.
In the middle of summer, and,
Well, the summer is here.
yeah,
Summer's half over.
all good.
Thank you.
We haven't really, though, the biggest substantive change we haven't even discussed yet, so I think in general, if you could give us just an overview of that substantive change, Annalee, would be helpful
Well, I
at
didn't
this
have a
point.
time limit at 8:30. I just wanted to respect your schedule, that you have another matter to deal with tonight, as I understood it. So
Right.
let's move on then to Article 8, which is nominations and elections. There's very, very minor changes, and one is to Section 804, the voting place. Language was added, I think at the suggestion of the clerk, that this is what you have to follow. No, I don't know otherwise where that came from, but that this is how it happens, that pursuant to this section. And then in 806, a small change, we changed not and put no, put it in a different place. All right.
Thank you. Article 9.
Any questions on that? Article 9, initiative and referendum. This has been reworked in very significant ways. Section 901.4, even though it shows it's been deleted, it's only been moved. It's been deleted from this location and renumbered under Section 902, called Procedure of Override of Action by Town Council. So except for what I'm going to point out to you, the changes are to put them into smaller paragraphs, each thought in a separate paragraph, to put a title on what it is, so it's easier reading, and then to go to the next page, just back and forth, is to, in 902.3, add the word town council, because it was part of a compound sentence from another section. So section 901.4 really has no substantive changes to it, even though it appears really big.
901.4?
Part 4.
Brand new.
That's new. 901.
She's talking
Certainly.
about, they
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, the old 901, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
the old 901.
The old 901 has been renumbered as 902 with really no substantive changes, okay, except
Clear,
organization.
yes,
All right.
that's clear.
And we put it in the order of how an election might happen, okay? So 901.4 is a new item. This came to us from a resident who wrote to us and appeared before us, who had multiple suggestions, 9 or 10 changes. We reviewed and talked about every one of them, and only picked this one as appropriate for the town charter. The rest we thought was not appropriate for the town charter. It was more like managing the town. And so, as a result, we took the idea that was presented. Certainly, the dollar amount is significantly higher than what was suggested by the letter, and decided to pick the number that was already in the charter for a vote, so that we didn't create anything new. And then I believe that we had, Chris, write this for us, so it conveyed our thoughts, our collective thoughts. So that's the history of that. It wasn't initiated by any of us.
Thank you.
Just as a footnote, the Rules and Policies Committee will be taking up a policy that speaks to this issue, at least imposes a policy on staff and on yourself, essentially, in terms of procedures to follow for disposition and selling of town-owned property. That's not come forward through committee yet.
Thank you.
I have it here if anyone wants to look at the draft.
Councilor Babine.
For information-only purposes, as an example, what was the amount of the property that was transferred as part of the Pine Point deal, roughly?
650.
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry,
Land exchange most
the
recently?
land exchange issue, yep.
I don't have, there was never a dollar figure associated with that.
Anybody have any idea?
There was no dollar
Roughly.
figure. There was wild speculation as to what that dollar
Well,
figure should be.
Well, but here it's about the tax assessed value that's on the records, so I didn't know if anybody knew what that was at the particular time.
It's a road, so
Yes,
it wasn't
It was the land swap.
assessed.
No, there wasn't a dollar amount attached.
Oh, because it was a road? Okay, all right, thank you. Answers my question.
The other one would be the parking lot, the excess parking lot down at Pine Point would be the closest thing, I think.
Well, we talked about using
As well as the
appraisals.
corner of Commerce and Route 1 and a few others, yeah.
There was discussion, initially it was to use an appraised value. There's cost, there's time
Right.
associated. Actually, Mr. Vaniota suggested we use the town's assessor's record because it's a known finite number that we can all look to and know what it is, as opposed to,
Yeah, we discussed several other types of ways to get to this number, and we just took his suggestion.
Thank you.
So I guess the question, outside of the individual examples that could probably promulgate this, why is this necessary since it's so new? Why did the committee feel it was necessary?
Well, because I think our discussion reflect that there has been controversy over this particular issue, and this was a way to address that particular controversy as a procedure that allowed voters to weigh in. Others can speak to that, but that would be, from the letter we got and the presentation, that's what I would say.
Some of us thought that this was a category of protection as the other categories. The bond issues for the capital improvements, anything over $100,000 for single capital improvements and capital equipment. There was something else that was addressed. I'm not sure which section it is in now, and we thought that this was an appropriate category that could use citizen protection for the citizens, protection for the town.
if I could, the suggestion, as I recall from the resident, was to actually obtain voter approval prior to, and the concession, and there was a lot of discussion.
At
50,000.
At 50,000, too.
Aside from the value in terms of procedure, the suggestion was you gain and obtain voter approval before you dispose of property. The committee talked long and hard about that, and what is now contained, it now makes these actions subject to overrule. So it would require a citizen's initiative.
Right, so I
But
understand
There's a substantial difference between obtaining
What we-
approval
they
first
wanted.
and allowing the voters to
No,
challenge you.
I understand the,
This is nothing like the
Sale
original
of town
request.
Jack had a comment.
Well, this was one of the items that we had some substantial disagreement on, and we voted on anywhere from 50 or 100,000 to forget the whole thing. And we figured that's you folks. If I were in your position, I'd forget the whole thing. If I were in the people that wrote us, 50 or 100,000. But it ties up the council.
Yeah.
What we gave you, it's your choice.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, and my concern about this is that if we're conveying a parcel to somebody who's purchasing it, I mean, what about the real estate matters as far as, the confidentiality of real estate matters? If you're conveying a parcel to somebody and they want to pay you $600,000 and in the real estate market, then everybody knows that, John Doe is going to pay us $600,000 for this parcel, and somebody else comes along and will pay us more. So in the legality of it, how does that, through the chair to Chris?
Well, the council could certainly still hold the discussions, the negotiations in executive session.
Okay.
If whatever, public works garage, take any piece of town property that you might decide you don't need any more for some reason and you're
Yeah.
selling it. What it would take is that the council could take it all the way to the point of approving the sale. But then my guess is nobody would close until is it 21 days? I forgot, whatever the period is for a petition to go in, to wait and see whether the petition happened or not. So if you were negotiating a purchase and sale agreement for that town-owned property, there would be a contingency in there that the deposits would be made, the price would be agreed on, but you wouldn't have a closing until the timeline for people filing a petition for overrule had passed.
And some of us felt that if proper procedures were being followed, that the work of the title companies and other pieces of a closing were not going to happen in 20 days. You'd be lucky if they happened in a longer period of time under normal circumstances, so that this would not be preventing a normal, standard real estate transaction the town be involved in.
And certainly the 25% of the number of votes cast in the last gubernatorial election, within 20 days,
The big number.
how likely is that to happen?
But we had all that discussion as well, and so part of the discussion was before the fact, and some of the issues of the confidentiality and how difficult it would be to make a deal were addressed, and then it would be required no matter what. When we settled on the after the fact, we realized that maybe 99% of the deals nobody would even care about, and so this would be an option for the small amount if they wanted to do the work and were prepared to do the work. So, and it was explained to us that in the past, and we did ask that question for people who brought these kinds of actions, that they were well organized, and if they were serious, they got it done in that time limit. And so, there's several tiers of requirements. One, to get the petition in, to have it be valid, and then to have sufficient number of voters to show up. So that was the rationale. It was a response to a citizen. We didn't get many, and we were grateful for the few we got. And so it is responsive to that.
And we appreciate the citizen input, we do.
Absolutely.
That's not an issue. Counselor Wood?
Thank you. I'm a little conflicted on this. I'm pleased to see, though, that this is, as Tom had illustrated a few moments ago, that this is after the fact. This is an opportunity for the citizens to reverse town council action. And at first, one would think that should not tie the council or the town's hands in taking advantage of what could potentially be an extraordinarily good deal. And we have several examples. And that takes me to where my concern is. It seems to me we're suggesting this be a part of our charter because of maybe one bad deal in the eyes of one citizen. And that's what I'm hearing. So I'm a little concerned about that. I don't think a charter that tells us how to manage a town of over 20,000 should have an inordinate, a large section, a very potentially important section, placed in it without a little bit more careful and deliberate thought. So
your
I'm a little
public hearing
conflicted with this,
Might
you know.
get a turnout. We don't know. We tried night meetings, and when they didn't show up, we
Right.
went back to daytime, so.
Right. So, but anyway, again, at least it's an opportunity for folks to reverse town council action, and I certainly am not opposed to that philosophically in any way, shape, or form. But in the 901.2 and .3, we've left alone capital improvement or capital equipment of 100,000 and bond issues of 100,000. Yet, we're putting $400,000 on land value. Are we, maybe we should look at, is $100,000 the right number? I mean, a fire truck, from last I heard, not too many months ago, was over $400,000.
We
Ladder
had
truck.
that discussion, and there wasn't there was some
You didn't
discussion
have,
about
I
upping the
might
number.
suggest, with all due respect, you probably did not have a citizen who wrote you a letter on those subjects.
We
Yet
did
you
not.
did have one that wrote you a letter on the land issue. And I'm glad to see that you used your common sense and good wisdom and ability to discuss in a sensible manner to select what appears to be a pretty reasonable consideration. So,
And
but
the
I'm a little-
numbers
I'm a
were
little
discussed,
concerned. Okay.
Mike, and there was some feelings that those should be increased, but that was not the majority view of this group.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Counselor Babine.
Actually, to piggyback to Councilor Wood's comments, I just wanted to point out, I totally agree about the increase. In fact, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 now, where I had asked the council's finance committee when I was on it previously with others, which some said was a more conservative council at that time, and I asked for some changes in the whole composition about the dollar value of what we bond and how the people vote on it, and it was turned down. But I did want to mention at least that, just to make it clear, is that the committee actually did discuss changing this, but it lacked a second to even get changed, from what I understand. So at least they did bring that up. But I do agree that if we're going to allow one to be at 400,000, there needs to be a consistent philosophy across the board. I don't know, personally, I don't believe $400,000 is necessarily the right value, because in today's market, a half an acre of land could be $400,000, depending on what part of Scarborough you're in. And is that really a valuable number, based on the intent of what is asked for in this? The other part is that I agree, this is definitely conflicting, because the one issue, if I relate it to the one particular topic in my mind, which is, I'll say it, is Pine Point, I think if anything, the voters should have had a right to be able to overturn the council's ruling based upon the conveyance of that town right, but it didn't, because based on its current. The issue, though, is that it's the dollar value. They could have still done it, because it was, I think, there's a portion there that wasn't assessed, so it depends on, I think the intent is whether or not the citizens have the right to overturn something. The question is, what is the measurement, and then how do we set that? I question whether or not the $400,000 is the right measurement. I think it needs to be higher than that because of, some of the acquisitions that we've done and the transactions that we need to conduct as a government. The other thing is that, why it's conflicting, is that I think about some of the case studies and laws that I've read, or case laws that I've read around eminent domain, in regards to a community having the right to take property by eminent domain. And a lot of people get nervous about the word eminent domain. Eminent domain means that you force an owner to sell. It doesn't mean that you take it for no cost or no value for purposes of economic development. We should be able to, for the benefit of the community, be able to do certain transactions. Question is that, do we have to go to the citizens every time we want to do every single transaction that's greater than that's less than $400,000? Or at least in this, it's overturning it, so.
I want to make clear
This is
that
town-owned.
it's not, it wasn't the committee's intent that, that this has to be passed. It's just it's not our intent to hamper the town's ability to do it. But I think if you raise this number over 400,000, it's almost laughable, because you're not giving people a chance to overturn it. I mean, you're diminishing the number of opportunities. I have no dog in this fight, one way or the other, and I felt like the committee was pretty well divided, I know it was, on whether it even appeared in here. And I sided with the idea that it should go in there so that people have faith that if there's something that the council does, that there's an opportunity for them to get 25% of their closest friends that voted in the last gubernatorial election and see if they really know better than the council. And if they do, let them have at it.
Let
If
them
they
run for
don't,
council next
then
time.
the council did a pretty good job. So it's not like we're saying for everything you do, you've got to have the town's people's approval. We're just saying, if you somehow, you, the council, whoever you are, do something that the people don't approve of, whether it's buying a $150,000 pickup truck or dump truck or whatever it is, or $401,000 piece of property, if somebody, 25% of the people don't think you did a good job, then they can have at it.
Thank
I
you.
don't think-
Counselor Holbrook.
Actually, I was just going to mirror Mr. Higgins. This all comes back to, these are all after the fact, after the decisions have been passed. I actually, personally, as they were talking about it, thought in my own mind, I favored the lesser amount, the 100,000, because at the end of the day, you need 25% of the last gubernatorial election of people to sign your petition. Then you need 25% of those people to actually show up and vote. So this isn't a quick, every action that happens, overturn it because somebody's upset with you. This is there are quite a few people in town that agree that this is egregious, this is not appropriate, we did something wrong. This is a couple thousand people in town think we really dropped the ball on this. So I completely support the $100,000 mark, and I completely support the ability to stop a land transaction.
Okay,
Just real quick,
really quick, because we're really getting close to the line here.
am I correct here?
I would like a first shot.
Counselor
Oh,
DeAndrea.
I was just
first,
recognizing
and then
the
Mike.
Madam
I'm
Chair.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm pointing both of you. Counselor DeAndrea and then
By all
Counselor
means,
Wood.
Counselor DeAndrea.
Thank you. Thank you for the work on this. I think it's important as well. I would agree with Counselor Holbrook and Mr. Higgins as well. I think it's important for the citizens. We heard a lot about this through the Pine Point issue from many people, so I agree. And I would concur with Counselor Holbrook. I would go with a lower amount as well. So thank you for your work on that. I think that's important.
Thank you, Counselor Wood.
Thanks. And I know that all of you do not misunderstand our comments. Any one of ours is unappreciative of the hard work that you've done. This says, any order or resolve authorizing the conveyance of town-owned real property. Does that mean to say that this would be a transfer of property that's already owned by the town?
Yes.
So it doesn't speak to the town considering buying property that it does not yet own.
No.
And also, this would also only speak to property that is on the town assessor's rolls that has a value attached to it. That's what this says. I'm fine with this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are we ready to move on with some more comments about?
I'm sorry.
I think we're at maybe 9:03.5.
I want to get to 9:07.
9:03.7.
9:04 I want to get to.
I think we're at 9:02.
2.
What? I'm sorry, I
Right.
jumbled all the pages while you were all talking, and I totally lost it. So, well, no, I thought I talked about 9:02, saying that 9:02 used to be
just
9:03.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I pointed out just a couple of changes that had to be made because of the compounded sentences, I believe. The section 903.1, a number of registered voters, that has not been deleted. That's been moved to section 902 as well, if you look above. Again, to have it in sequence. Section 903.2 was moved to section 902. That was not deleted, so that it is in sequence. And then as you move down, these, the red numbers are only because these long paragraphs have been renumbered.
Right.
Okay?
Good.
.904 is petition, it's all new. for recall of elected officials. We looked at recall provisions from a number of towns around, and kind of made a chart of what, Carrie did that for us, of what other towns did. And Carrie put together a suggested way to do this based on picking from what other towns had. And then I guess Tody took and kind of reordered it. So this is the work of quite a few people to try to put it in the order that it would occur, and taking what we thought was the best of what other towns had. I don't believe there's anything brand new in here that we wrote or that we made up, let's put it that way. It all came from other language from elsewhere. We also, as I said at the beginning, put it into this section so that all other actions brought by members of the public for town referendums have the same procedure to follow no matter what. So that would apply to currently existing referendums for overturning action that you've taken, or to overturn ordinances. So that everybody was clear what they had to have on the petition, when they had to turn it in, how they would turn it in, when they would turn it in, how many signatures they needed, who they would turn it into. You can read the details for yourself.
Right, I think, given the time, I think that's fine.
Right. Then you see just renumbering. When you get to 905, it's now 911. But I see now there's two 911s, but the form of ballot needs to come out because we put it at the top on page 909, expanding the language to include any and all.
Yeah.
So this looks like it might be redundant. So you could ask all the detailed questions about this that you want. I think our answers would be that we have no particular dog in this fight. We just tried to draft something that was responsive to the initiatives that were brought, and picked what we thought was the best of what's out there.
Thank you. What I'd like to do, since it's so late, I don't think we need to debate this. If you have questions about how it came about, or towns involved and that kind of thing, but I think we can on our own get more into this, since this is all new.
Yeah.
Council Roy and
I
then Council
think
Wood.
my major question is, I know that you did a survey of towns. Were those towns that you surveyed of equal numbers of residents? I mean, i.e., we have 20,000 people in Scarborough. Were the surveys done of communities that had 5,000 people or 6,000, or?
Some were more, some were less.
Okay,
Not
so
all towns have recall
comparatively-
procedures. I went online at the municipal website to look at them, and then some were presented to us in print form
Okay.
for suggested changes. So I think that it was a range.
And were these communities that you looked at town manager, council forms of government, or selectmen?
Some were.
Town meeting.
Some were not. It was a
Okay, so
combination.
there was no, you did not make a difference of those two?
We did
Okay.
not.
Thank
Well,
you.
we looked at different categories of types of provisions for types of issues.
yeah.
And they had a huge range. Some would let two people start a petition to recall someone.
Yeah.
You know, someone else needed 3,000. So I took everything sort of in the middle and said, okay, here's the major issues we have to talk about. Where do we want to be in that range?
But I think the important things for me is numbers of residents in the community, and whether or not they have a town manager, town council form of government, or they have a selectman and town meeting form of government, which are totally two different things. So I would want to
Judy,
separate out that data.
Let me just suggest on this chart, what we had is South Portland, Old Orchard Beach, which are all manager forms of government. And then we had, smaller towns, Acton, Cumberland, Dover, Foxcroft, which are different. So it's kind of a range, but
Because, well,
Kind of closer to
but the
us.
selectmen, you know,
And then we looked at Rockland.
that form of government depends on how many people you can bring to the meeting and how late they can stay up.
If I may, if it's helpful,
And whether they're of your opinion.
if I'm not mistaken, this
Is,
was
is
constructed.
Council Holbrook been recognized by the chair?
No, Council Holbrook.
Oh, I thought Mike.
Oh, I didn't see you, Mike. I thought you
No,
were just
you announced
pointing
the
it out
order.
to me.
You announced the order.
Oh, I got so into the
I know it's
conversation.
late. I know
I'm
it's
sorry.
late.
Council Wood, did I say you next?
I thought I
Then you go
heard.
right, I don't remember, so go right ahead.
Okay.
And then Council Holbrook.
From the first time that this was mentioned, the possibility of recall, I said then, and I'll say it again, that I'm not philosophically opposed to this at all. But I've always thought that it should have a very high threshold. And Annalise spoke to this in her presentation. She made a point to illustrate to us that the procedure, you endeavored to create a procedure that mimicked the same procedure that a citizen would have to overturn an ordinance. And I believe the procedure to recall an elected official should be higher than the procedure that's required to change a zone from the B2 to the B4 or the VR2. It's a very, very important tenet of and foundation of our government. And I believe that whether the 25%, it certainly is a large number. Through the chair, I'd ask Tony, what was the last number of, that represented 25% of our gubernatorial?
Not this last election, we were using 25, just over 2,500.
That would be about 2,500 people. So it would take 2,500 people to show up and vote to recall.
No, it's just
No.
25
So
voters.
I'm past that. That's already happened. It would still take 2,500 people, essentially, to show up and vote and throw the bum out, throw Councilor Wood out. That's fine. But it would also only take, it would take the same 2,500 people to change a zone in town. So I don't know whether the number should be increased to throw Councilor Wood out, or whether it should be decreased to change the zone in town. But I'm troubled that they're both the same. The other thing in here is that the other procedures talk about a public hearing. And 25 individuals can start the process for consideration of recalling an elected official. And that's fine. And then they need 2,500 signatures, and that's fine. But there's no public hearing. I can envision the whole town hearing about how bad and evil Councilor Wood is. But Councilor Wood has no way to really say, hey, wait a minute, I got something to say about that. So I don't know what the process should be or could be or what other towns might do, but my sense is that the lack of having some public process that allows the elected official an opportunity to have his or her 5 minutes might be an important component. But philosophically, I'm not opposed to a recall provision. But those are my, I don't think it should be the same standard that's required to change a zone in town, for example, or any other ordinance.
Thank you.
Madam
I remember, we're not debating tonight, we're just clarifying. So Councilor Holbrook.
Chair. No debate.
I was just going to try to help Annalee, and the idea of the philosophy behind it was that, again, it had the 25% for the recall provision. You had to have 25% signatures, 25% of people to show up and vote. The idea was, so that it mimicked, and there was continuity throughout this, so that you had continuity from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. So you didn't have one number for one thing, one number for something else, and one number for something else. The other idea was so that it did not come to the point, it is stringent. You still need quite a bit of work to have something like this move forward, but it is not unobtainable. And that was the biggest goal I heard throughout the committee while I was there, is that this wasn't completely out of reach for the citizens in town. So again, this was something they took very lightly, and it was something they slaved and debated vigorously over for in a full session, I believe.
I'm sure.
Carol?
Yes.
let me share with you also, Mike, that we talked about two other concepts. There were several of us that did not like the idea of saying a minimum number of voters had to show up to overturn something because there wasn't a minimum number that needed to show up to elect you or us. You know, you can be elected with a 10% showing or a 5% showing. So, you know, that was not accepted by the majority of this group. So we discussed that concept. Was it appropriate to have an election that maybe would encourage people not to show up, you know, and we know that's happened in town. So we did discuss all of those variables, and a person can get elected with a 10% showing. Now, we're lucky in this town, we have a better showing than that, but many towns don't have those thresholds. It's just you show up and you vote, and it's the majority of those that show up, and that's a little scary.
Thank you. Councilor Babine.
So, not to debate this, I agree with several comments surrounding council comments. The biggest concern I have is section 905.1.3, which states that the petition must contain a statement of reason for the recall or explanation of the action being taken. And it's a very broad statement in my connotation, and the reason is that because the reason could be really anything from, I simply don't like the way he parts his hair, to the vote that he took. There is no substantive reason behind that. And I think that if you're going to, in essence, overturn what a majority of citizens elected to do in the prior election, then there needs to be a substantive reason for doing that. And it can't just be something that is emotional at that particular point in time. So as an example, I was thinking at the last election, there was a counselor, several counselors actually, if you think about it, we received, I think even I received like 4,000 or 5,000 votes. But yet, based upon this provision, for any reason whatsoever, 25 people can come forward, say, I want to recall Sean Babine because he parts his hair wrong. They get 2,500 signatures, which is less than the number of people who actually elected me. But yet, within 20 days, have an election in which less than 1,000 people can kick me out of office.
Same 25% have to.
Same 20.
But still, it's 25.
25%
But
have
even
to
at
show
that
up.
2,500,
It's the majority.
so whether it's 1,000 or even after 2,500, it's still less than the majority that put me into office. So the question I ask is that, is this truly democratic?
One comment though, Sean, if you look on page 20 of 27, at 904.1, it does say that the reason, if you look 904.1 petition procedure, the bottom sentence in the first paragraph, the recall is sought and the reason for the recall, which is related to official responsibilities. So the part in your hair would not.
Right, so I'm a little facetious in the example,
Right.
because I'm trying to stay away from particular items. But the question is that one person may consider an official responsibility not official versus another person. So how does the town clerk objectively determine, based upon that, or the town manager, or whoever, determine what is an official
We
responsibility?
don't, and that's why we didn't leave anything up for interpretation, but I think it's important, if you're going to go down this road, to
Right.
have the petitioner, the one initiating the process, to state for everyone to see what the reasons are. And I would hope, if it's a frivolous reason, people aren't going to sign it.
Right. I mean, that
You
makes
hope,
perfect sense to me.
None of us want to be in a position of making a judgment call of whether their reason is valid or not. That's
So-
not for us
It
to
was
decide.
left particularly broad just for that reason. Who wants to be the one to decide what's substantive and what's not? And if you don't have a substantive reason to write down on your petition, then probably not going to get too many people to sign it. I don't know, maybe.
So the secondary question of that is that outside of the rhetorical example that I provided, let's make it a substantive one, and say, I want to recall Sean Babine because he voted in favor of the Pine Point land exchange. There's still going to be less people who vote me out of office who voted me into office. Is that truly democratic?
Potentially, yeah.
And therefore, that's where I then piggyback onto comments like Councilor Wood made that says, I think the threshold needs to be higher if you're going to go down this path. I don't disagree with us going down that path. suggest that it needs to be significantly higher because it becomes a qualitative assessment rather than a quantitative. Because if you look at section, I think it's 202 in the beginning, the reason for being discharged from your office is quantitative. If you are convicted of a felony in which you are in prison for 6 months, you will be removed from your seat as a town councilor. That's factual, it's based on law, there's no judgment involved, that's fair. And I think maybe the forefathers intended it to be that high, and I just question whether or not we're just simply making it a little bit too low and we need to make it higher.
And I think that's a debate for us, not
Yes,
for this
absolutely,
group.
absolutely.
So that's why I'm not going to go on
Absolutely.
with this. Yes,
Just one point, we went round and round and round on this, but one point that I don't remember ever coming up was what Councilor Wood said, given the victim, perpetrator, a chance to defend himself. I don't remember that ever,
No, I don't either.
ever coming up.
That should be in there.
Yeah.
I believe that.
that's a very interesting point.
Well, I was trying to clarify that in my mind. Where is the public hearing on a citizen initiative or a citizen overturn of a?
It's right here it's in here.
Because we were making this consistent, so I'm trying to.
It's 902.2.
Then it should be there.
Because the council has to approve the election item, so therefore it comes to a public hearing, right?
Right.
It should,
903.3 is also under for enactment of.
902.2?
903.3. The new
Public hearing,
903.2.
902.2,
And maybe one
the
councilor's gonna
town
vote
shall
against
call
signing
the
it
public
for
hearing to be held within 30 days from the date of filing of such petition
yeah.
with the town clerk.
So that's
That's
an
proc-
inconsistency that we could,
That's
that's
procedure for
fixable.
override. It could be added with, and recall petitions
Right.
added to that title.
Yeah, do we have that in enactment of ordinance? Did we just miss
It's just
that
in the,
mirror?
it's just in the procedure.
It's in there, it's in 903.
Yeah.
It's in 903. Okay,
So
so
our intent was to mirror.
anything further?
Free as well.
I hate to, because I know we all want to go home. Well, we do, and you
I'm
have other
out.
things to
I'm
do.
Yes, that's right.
I'm out.
I want to make, one thing that I've noticed, it's not the same, and I emailed Annalee about this, and was under in section 908 at the bottom of page 22. I believe I was told that our intent, well, let me start over again. This says that if someone is recalled, that if there is if there is another election within 6 months, then that recall election won't be held until that 6 months is up. Or it will go to the next election.
Right.
The intent was that that would be the same as the other language, but it's not. If you look at the council vacancy and school board vacancy, it says the same thing, except that. It says, instead of saying there shall be no election, it says that the town council may have an election within 6 months, may declare the vacancy and have an election, and it says the school board can do the same thing. So there's a subtle difference there between those two, and I submit that if someone is going to be recalled, that you shouldn't have to wait 6 months to have it resolved,
I think that's
so.
I think that's purposeful. You don't want the council, making that kind of a decision on its own. I think it's better that the council follow a very strict path on the subject of recall.
Right, but so I guess it's just a matter of whether or not you think if you've got a recall in April and there's an election in November, well,
Right.
council's got to be in limbo, in
Right, how
purgatory for
consistent
6
is
months. I don't know
consistency?
whether you want
Yes,
that or not.
I get you. Yep, I do. Okay, Annalee, can we move on to Article 10?
Oath of office. Section 1001, again, wasn't viewed to be a substantive change, a clarification change on language. Section 1003 is a rewrite of this language to make it clear. The intent of what we were trying to accomplish was again sent to Chris, and this is what he suggested that would help clarify, but not really change. Our intent was not a substantive change, but a clarification. So I kind of put that in category 2. And the same with 1003.4. 1004, 1005, 1006 are all implementation language, and I think at one of the last meetings we had, we were advised that legally that probably could be deleted, and we asked also about section 1009. I think, we asked about another one that was recommended that we not delete, but it's still here. So we did differentiate between some of this implementation language. And the rest are renumbering until you get down to the bottom one, or something we amended. We probably should have put that in 10 years ago when we did it, because that's in fact what happened.
Right.
So that's the end.
Any questions on Article 10, clarifications? Seeing none, I want to say thank you very much to the committee. You've done yeoman work. We obviously have a lot more work to do, but we want to say thank you for your efforts. And I think a lot of what you have proposed is certainly not controversial at all. And there are some things that we will probably debate as much as you all did. So with that, we want to say thank you for your work.
Just real quick, I just want to add to the Madam Chair's comments. I too very much appreciate your hard work and the fact that you submitted things that could or may or may not be controversial, but that's not your job. I think you really did a nice job being very objective and not taking a large opinion on, and left it up to us to debate those kinds of issues, and I appreciate that. That's not an easy thing to do, and you did very well at that, so thank you.
And thank you for staying with us so late on a hot night. I'm now going to entertain a motion for, go ahead.
Order number 10-59 is act on the request for an executive session pursuant to Title I of the Maine Revised Statute, subsection 4056C, regarding a real estate matter.
Could I have a motion, please?
The assessed value is?
Approval? Second.
Oh, we didn't vote yet.
Discussion, all those in favor? Thank you.
Discussion.
We'll meet immediately in the manager's conference room.